All right, welcome back to another episode of Power Players Podcast. My name is Michael Carter Jr., aka M. Dot, and in this episode, my special guest is former basketball player, a power player, first round pick number 2 in the '97 draft, who played for the New Jersey Nets, 76ers, New York Knicks, Milwaukee Bucks, and the Dallas Mavericks of the NBA. He had an All-American career at Utah before helping the Nets make it to the NBA Finals in 2002. And a man I had the opportunity to know on and off the court, someone that will have your back. Please welcome my special guest, Keith Van Horn.
All right. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem, Keith. Man, it's been I say it's been more than 15, 20 years since I last spoke to you, I last saw you.
Yeah,
Um, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Just living out here in Colorado, and my last daughter just went off to college, and um, all my kids are doing well, and my family's doing good, and so I can't complain. I've had a blessed life.
Wow. See, yes, you have. You ventured off very well after the NBA with the things that you're doing out in Utah now.
Yeah, I got into some business stuff early on when I got done playing, and that did really well, and enjoyed my time doing that, and sold a few businesses, and started a nonprofit youth basketball organization about 10 years ago that I actually just retired from and stepped down from, and I'm ready to relax a little bit and be kind of semi-retired for a bit. I went pretty hard after my MBA career with business stuff, and just taking a year to relax and enjoy life, and figure out what I want to do with my next career.
I mean, you were a hard worker. You when you came into the league from Utah, I mean, you made your presence known, and you always had a hard work ethic on the court and off the court. And I think it's translated into your business now. And um, I was talking to you about this before we came on. One thing that um, you spoke to me about was very important to you, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about this when I was a ball boy, was about education and how important it was. And I'll never forget this, man. I spoke about this in my book, A Ball Boy's Journey, a memoir. You invited, it was after practice at the Meadowlands, and you invited me to take a ride with you in your car. You had just got this Lexus from a dealership. I think it was like a GS 350, I think it was. And we went around the Meadowlands Arena like 2, 3 times, and you were just like, go to school, man, go to college, get your college education, don't get caught up in this sports business, without it, you want to be able to prepare yourself for the future. And I want to thank you for that. How important is it for an athlete to get their college education, even if they're going into league early, or um, if they're gonna, think about jumping into straight into the NBA from high school? How important is it for an athlete to get their college degree?
Well, I think that the world of athletics from a player's perspective is short-lived. I mean, even if you have a lot of success, and you're fortunate to have a long career, is still relatively short in terms of your entire lifespan. And so there's always going to be a point where that playing side comes to an end. And I think from a college standpoint, I think it allows you to expand your horizons a little bit. Education opens up your eyes to different opportunities, and allows you to think about things differently. I think that it also plays an important role in just understanding, hey, this basketball or this football or this baseball or whatever is going to end, and what are my interests, and what am I going to do after, because it's really it's unfortunate to see so many people who who aren't prepared after to handle it. And it's a really hard transition, even if you do know what you want to do after you're done playing. That transition is incredibly difficult. It is such a huge lifestyle change. And so I think that just education, college really helps in that transition, because it's gonna be hard. And then I think also from like your standpoint as a ball boy, I do think that there's people who are involved in sports, not necessarily as the athletes, but in support roles or management roles, or roles in which it's just affiliated with the sports industry. That industry is also hard in terms of just the number of jobs available. It's limited, and so I always, like when we had our conversation, I just think it's important to have broad horizons, and maybe there's something you find through education and others find through education that interests them just as much as sports, because it's not an infinite world in terms of opportunities within sports in general.
Yeah, that's true. That job you could easily be replaced, and if you don't have a backup plan as far as career and what you want to do after basketball, life can suck you in, and it definitely did, that to me. And I thank guys like you and um Jason as well, and Leah Wilcox, Derek. Those are, important people in my life, and I appreciate that. Who were the integral people part of your life in college and in the NBA?
Yeah, I think in college, obviously my college coach Rick Majerus had a big impact on me, both on and off the court. Um, there was uh, a businessman in Salt Lake that just kind of supported the university, named John Huntsman, who had a big impact on me. I think his son ended up becoming governor, or was a presidential candidate as well. So people probably remember that name to some extent, but had a big impact on me in terms of just, making sure that you're giving back to the next generation, making sure that you're helping those who are coming up and need some assistance and need a word of advice. And I think he always went out of his way to help me and to talk to me, and I think that always stuck with me when I saw people who were around me in my career and in basketball and post basketball who needed just someone to talk to or someone to help lift them up. I think that um, it was John Huntsman that really inspired me to always be aware of that, because I think it's our duty as human beings to be there for others and support others, and um, it just he had that really big impact on me.
Mm. You definitely had an impact on me as well. Were there any athletes who had an impact on you when you came into the league?
I from an athletic standpoint, um, I mean, there was athletes that I looked up to as a kid growing up, from an athletic standpoint, like in terms of like my appreciation of their game and the way they played and what they did. Um, I always had, I guess, an understanding that I didn't know those athletes as people. I always kind of had an understanding to some extent that that media perception is uh, is just that. It's a perception. It's not always real. And obviously, having played in the NBA and having seen what is written and what is put out, and then knowing people intimately, it doesn't always add up. And so I guess as a kid, I didn't idolize sports stars for like who they were as people, because I didn't know them. Um, but obviously from a basketball standpoint, I grew up in the Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson era, and just loved all of their battles. And I was particularly fascinated growing up with Larry and Magic, just in terms of their size and their ability to do so many different things on the court, and even guys like Derek McKee. I don't know, there's probably not a lot of people that he's not a
Wow.
household name, or or by any means, but like just guys that had versatility and could do a lot of different things on the court. I always appreciated their games because I always wanted to be that versatile player too.
Yeah, you definitely were on the court because either you could post up somebody or you could shoot the three. Um, now I see because your game did resemble Magic in some way, and it did resemble Larry Bird in some way. So I do see a little comparison there. Now I understand why.
Hmm. Hmm.
Some good times, man, that were on the court with the Nets, and a lot of fun times. What what was how is it like, how'd you get into that mental toughness, that confidence on the court, and did that help you with life after the court, with being just confident in what you can do?
Yeah, I think to some extent, confidence often comes from knowing that you're prepared, and I derived a lot of confidence from preparation,
Mm,
and just knowing that I've put the work in. And so a lot of my mental state, when I went into a game, was knowing that I had put the work in, and I could therefore let that go and just go out and play. Um, I think it gets more challenging as you get older in your career, and you deal with injuries and age, and you're not. Uh, it's hard to um, it's hard to know going into games that, like, if you're dealing with an injury or you're coming back from injury, that you're not your typical self, and so I think that's really hard from like a confidence standpoint going into games. But I do think like the just knowing that you're prepared, and knowing that you've put in the work, that in and of itself drives confidence.
mm. Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Yeah, for sure.
That's something I keep with me, very dear. It's kinda like my motivation, really. You could use it anywhere in life, either if you're an athlete or if you're just trying to, prepare yourself in life with a career. You gotta be prepared at all times to perform great,
For
and,
sure.
it could go along with you a long way. What,
Right.
who was the toughest player to play against?
Um, I
Because
mean,
you battled a lot, man. You battled some big men.
yeah, I mean, in terms of just like I get asked the question often just by people that I run into. The I feel, and there's a few players in today's game that I obviously never had an opportunity to play against, but I did have the opportunity to play against a lot. And in terms of just overall players, in terms of who I thought was the greatest, I felt like it was always Michael. Um, and I think he was head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was close. If I had to start a team, he'd be my number one guy. Um, but it's the game has changed a lot. But back then, it was a lot more physical,
Mhm.
not quite as open and spread out, and so that, yeah, it was a grind every single night. um but I think that it was in the NBA. It's so matchup orientated, and the defensively, it's all about individual matchups. and who can do the best job individually on certain players. And I think just in terms of individual matchups with me, I always felt like it was the most difficult for me when I was going up against someone who was like really wide, a little bit shorter than me, because like a 6'6", 6'7", like a Larry Johnson, or someone like that, because they have like a little lower center of gravity and leverage, and it's oddly enough, it's sometimes harder to post up against someone a little bit shorter, someone a little bit wider with leverage, than it is someone like your size. I also think that, like, from a perimeter standpoint, it's a little bit more difficult taking them out onto the perimeter, because they're a little bit better at guarding than someone like, that 6'9", 6'10", like a Charles Oakley, or someone like that, who really just wants to, defensively play on the interior and bang and wear you down. Charles didn't like to come out and guard as much on the perimeter, but someone like Larry Johnson did a really good job defensively on the perimeter, and was tough to post up against, because he's 260, 255,
Yeah.
and it was really difficult to get post position on him, because he would just squat down, put that forearm out, and it was challenging. So guys like that were always the most challenging for me on the court. I'd much rather play against someone like my size, where I could take advantage of a few things.
Interesting. The science behind it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now I'm gonna bring back a story. I don't know if you remember this. You might, because when you mentioned Michael Jordan, there was an event that came to mind. I think it was your first year with the Nets, and we made the playoffs. And the first round we played Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and we lost the series. We lost the series at home.
Yep.
That night, it was a big game too. That the night we lost, I think everybody was there. It was a whole bunch of celebrities, and Michael Buffer was there. And afterwards, we went out. It was me, you, Michael Buffer, and a couple other folks. I think Jason and a couple other folks. I don't know if you remember this at all, this story?
I don't.
And so we went out. We went out to eat after the game. After we lost. The season was over. Um, we went out, and Michael Buffer came out with us, and he was dressed in his tuxedo. He had on his tuxedo as if he was, doing the announcing for a boxing match. He came out with us. We went to a club. We went to Club Envy, and we got in there. And maybe like 20 minutes into the club, Michael Buffer gets on the mic, and he gets on the mic, and the DJ turns the mic down, and Michael Buffer gets on. He's like, "New York, are you ready?" He's like, everybody starts going crazy, and he's like, "Club Envy, are you ready?" And everybody starts going crazy. And then he says his motto, he says his theme, his kicker.
Uh-huh.
Let's get ready. I don't want to say it because I hear if you say it, you have to pay him. I don't want to say it. But he said it, and the crowd goes wild. And I felt like I felt like we were at Atlantic City, like at a main event. And then he
Uh-huh.
says it, the music drops, and it's all about the Benjamins, and we're out, you guys are enjoying it, you're enjoying the night. It's like you were just letting loose. And it was a great night. And then afterwards, you looked out for me. You was like, "Mike, it's really late." I think it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. You were like, "Mike, it's really late. I don't think you should drive home. Why don't you come stay at night in my house?" I was like, "Really?" He was like, "Yeah, man." And you drove me to your house, and I spent the night there. And bed was like very plush. It was the most comfortable bed I've ever slept in. And you took care, like you were just like, "Sleep here tonight, and then I'll drop you back off." And that was something that I didn't expect, like, just hanging out with you players and getting a chance to know you off the court, like you said, it was totally different experience. It's something you don't see, you know, off the court from players. And that was a great night. That was a fun night. Got to hang out with you, Michael Buffer, and Jason Williams. You don't remember this night at all?
No, I remember when you were talking about Michael getting up and making that speech. I remember, I kind of remember that part. But I don't remember all the details. I remember that loss, that's for sure.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
a
I remember we had I think the first two games of that series, that was back when the first round was only 5 games.
yeah.
And I think we went to overtime in the first two games in Chicago.
Yeah, y'all scared them, like, y'all shook them
Yeah.
up.
And then you know, Cal was all hyped about how we were playing, and we were coming home, and you know, Cal was running his mouth and talking about how we can get this win at home. And obviously, having played them really well 2 games, we thought we could sneak out that game 3 win. But I remember Jordan hit a 3 right in front of our bench. It was like early fourth quarter. And I remember he turned to Cal, and he as he was running by him, he was like, "I was just saving it for your ass."
Oh, typical.
And no,
Oh,
but yeah, that was that was a fun series, obviously, and that was, I think that was the last year that Chicago had won. But no, I do I'm it's coming back to me that when he got up and he was when he was talking to the crowd there, that's spurring my memory there. I forgot about that.
MJ, he used to always come there and use any little motivation because what he did in the playoffs to us, that first round, it was like, I think it was like that last game where he went off. He went
Yeah,
off in the fourth quarter.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was that was a fun night. It was and I think that was like one of maybe the second time, and that was the team where it was you, Jason Williams, Sam Cassell,
Kerry Kittles,
Kerry Kittles, Kendall Gill,
Kendall Gill, Lucius Harris,
Lucius Harris. Yeah.
um, Michael Cage.
Oh my goodness. Whoa, Michael Cage.
Michael Cage.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And Calipari was the coach. That's right. And he was doing a lot of yelling. Goodness gracious. So let me ask you this. So that team, and then you was on the 2002 Nets,
Hmm.
and that was a special team. That was a
Yeah.
team that went to the finals.
Yep.
Who would you, let me see. So the 97 or the 2002 team versus today's Nets. Who would you
Mm.
pick?
Ooh. I think it'd be a good matchup.
Hmm.
I think it'd be a good matchup. I think the game has changed. I think every generation, um, the players get better.
Mhm.
You know, that's just life. That's what you want, right? You know, it's gonna progress, and I do think the players today are, it's unfair to put them up against a match and say this team versus, it's a different time,
That's true.
different era, different style. And the bottom line is, you know, every decade the players make a big jump, and they're significantly better. So it's a tough comparison, but I do think it would be a good series.
Have they invited you back at all, the Nets, to
They
come?
have, and I haven't had a ton of time to do a lot of stuff, and I really haven't had like a super big interest and doing a lot of NBA stuff since I've been done. I've been busy, and I give back. I've given back a lot to the game regarding youth, mostly in my community out here in Colorado, and so I've enjoyed doing that. And so just in terms of if I ever needed to evaluate my time spent, and just the impact that it has, I always felt like it was better spent with like my community and the youth, and just like I really didn't have a super big interest in getting back involved in the NBA for whatever reason.
Let me ask you, I wanted to ask you this before. I heard it on an episode of All the Smoke podcast during an interview with Allen Iverson. He said he'd love to play alongside you in Philly. I don't know
Oh,
if yeah, it was a good interview, and he mentioned that. And I wanted to get your thoughts, like what was it like to play with Allen?
I love playing with Allen. As you know, um, I, I I I think that it was definitely an interesting time. It was, when I went to Philly, it was kind of it was fresh off the whole ESPN practice interview. I remember one of the first times I was in Philly. It was in the summer, and Allen was in the training room, and I was sitting next to him. We were both on the training tables, ready, getting taped and whatnot. And I remember they started playing on ESPN, on the TV above us. They started playing his whole practice uh, interview and press conference, and it was funny watching him laugh, and we got a good laugh out of it. Just it was, it's it's so funny watching it now, and then just to be sitting with Alan and watching him laugh as he's watching it was pretty surreal. But no, I enjoyed playing with him. I had a solid year that year, and I think we made it to the semifinals of the Eastern Conference. We had you know, solid team, and thought we worked well. He has the ball in his hands a lot, and I think that I can adapt, and I'm able to play without the ball pretty well, and be effective. So no, it was I enjoyed that time, and Alan's I think he has an unbelievable heart, unbelievable talent, and unbelievable. He's just a genuine person, and it's a lot of good memories.
If you could go back, would you do anything differently in your career?
You know, I think that looking back, I would have, and I think the players do a better job of this now, just in terms of overall like health, and doing a better job of taking care of your body and eating habits, um, and having more like accessible trainers, like even during the season, in terms of strength stuff. I just feel like that would have, I think, helped me with some injury stuff that I dealt with, and coming back on time. I think it was I think that the overall health, both mental and physical, of players is um, is much more focused on now than it was when we were playing. And I know that sounds a little bit odd, um, but there wasn't like a huge emphasis on that in terms of eating, um, in terms of strength and conditioning during the season. It was there, but it wasn't to the level that it is now. And I think that certainly would have helped in terms of just overall feeling of my body, in terms of coming back from injury and bouncing back quicker and having less injuries. I think that would have would have definitely been helpful. So yeah, whether it's, chef or more use of a personal trainer during the season, going back and reading similar to like what Michael and Scotty and them are doing with the Bulls, with their trainer at the time. I think that played a big role in their success and their ability, their longevity over the course of a long season into the finals. And there was just some things that I didn't realize the importance of back then, and now if I were to redo it, I would have definitely placed more of an emphasis on that.
Hmm. So more of the emphasis on mental health, on eating, on physical training, strength conditioning.
Yeah, during the season, because like it
Yeah.
was it was always kind of like you did your strength training during the off season to maintain, get stronger. Um, but I think that I could have done a better job of that during the season, um, in order to just to maintain a high level. I wish I would have done a little bit more of that, and been aware of some things, like some things I just wasn't aware of, like the importance of, like, I think eating and what you're putting in your body is much more emphasized now than what it was when we were in the league. Like we would come onto the plane and there's fried chicken fingers. It was just a different deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember those days.
And it's kind of like, you look back at some of the players in the 50s, 60s, maybe even into the 70s, where they're like smoking in the locker room at halftime and stuff. They didn't,
Yeah.
right? They were just doing what they did. And so I just, as time goes on, things improve, medicine improves, your awareness of the importance of, your body and everything improves. So it's just, I know it sounds like I'm dating myself, but it's definitely a different scene now than it was like in the 90s.
That's true. That's true. Last question before you go, because I know you got a hectic schedule. How can people get in touch with you? I know you're doing a lot for your community in Utah, and you do a lot with the youth. How can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, I don't do social media anymore. I just kind of got bored with it.
Yeah.
I don't. It wasn't really of any interest to me. Maybe it's just my age. But yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, and I have, I keep up a personal website with that my assistant kind of keeps up on, just because people can reach out to me through the website. And I don't do a ton of interviews. I want to definitely do this interview
I,
with you,
I appreciate this, man,
just
because
because of the past. I mean, this is probably the first interview I've accepted in about 3 years. I feel like I'm fortunate enough to be able to decide how I spend my time, and I'm really dedicated to spending my time in a way that, like, I feel is most beneficial for my life and my community. And so I don't spend a ton of time doing interviews and social media and stuff. But I enjoy my business stuff. I enjoy, my kids, and doing volunteer work and all that for the community. But people can definitely check me out on LinkedIn or my personal website, keithvanhorn.com, which probably need to update. I just spend time doing the things that I think are most valuable to me, but and which is why I wanted to do this with you.
I appreciate it, and that's what life is about: is bringing value to yourself, and how can you bring value to others? And it's something that I've learned this now. It's taken many years. I've had a lot of trials and tribulations, and I had an incident that kind of changed my life in 2002 at the Garden, and I was assaulted, and that's where my life really it changed me, and it changed who I was as a person. And for the past 30 years, I was always trying to find my purpose in life of something that I saw during, when I was in the hospital. And now I'm just at the point where I want to bring value to other people's life, and showing them their purpose in life. And we all are valuable here in life, and it's what you do with your life to help others and motivate people. And I hope I do that with bring you on, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this because I know you don't do many interviews, and this is dear and special to me. So thank you so much, Keith. I really appreciate this, man.
Yeah, man, you're doing great work, and I'm happy to do it, and happy to see you're doing so well, and just obviously wish you all the best, man.
Thank you, man. I'm gonna send you out a book too as well.
Okay, cool. That
Uh,
sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. I'll check it out.
Thank you, man. This is another edition of Power Players Podcast with your host, Michael Carter. I thank you, Keith Van Horn. Stay tuned and look out for his description in the description area of this podcast. Take care. God bless.